Let's rock and roll.
How does environmental change affect our human evolution? Scientists have found that climate change has affected and will continue to affect animal and human evolution. From the beginning of time, changes in our environment have made Homo sapiens evolve. For example, humans went from crawling on all fours to walking on twos. Taking a look at our environment, researchers and scientists can see that as the world gets warmer, animals and humans will evolve internally and externally. There have been many hypotheses as to how Homo sapiens evolved, one being the savanna hypothesis, which is explained by John Rowan in 2015. The savanna hypothesis is one of the oldest ideas on the effects climate change had on early humans. The idea is that the spread of grassland was important to the evolution of our ancestors in Africa. Another hypothesis, known as speciation, stated by John Rowan in 2015. Speciation can occur when populations are divided and take on their own evolutionary paths. Such divisions could also have caused the evolution of new adaptations. Homo sapiens might have had to change their behaviors when they came in contact with one another. These new behaviors may have evolved when species had to compete for food. Both of these hypotheses have to do with how our climate has changed and where that took human evolution. As the world knows, when the climate changes drastically, it can affect humans, but more importantly, animals. When talking about drastic changes in the world's environment, Mitch and Scott explains a concept called vulnerability selection. It's a process of selection and adaptation to environmental vulnerability, and accounts for traits that cannot be explained by adaptation to any one environment or trend. For example, our large brains are useful for processing a wide range of information. Our teeth and ability to make tools are useful for consuming a wide variety of foods. Our sociability helps us team up with others when our survival is threatened. However, this is only one explanation for animals and humans evolving. Explained by changing climate may have speeded up evolution. In 2015, gene flow makes creatures more resilient to climate change. You have populations that live more in the south or more in the north, Professor Hoffer said. The genomes of these populations will be differently adapted to the local environment. So if and when the climate changes, if it gets warmer, it is beneficial to have gene flow from the south to maintain a population. Compared with the Urban Evolution article that states that, in other words, when rural or city fly and fleet populations are matched, there seems to be more balance, as you expect if two populations are evolving in step with each other. These two connect in that when two populations come together, it can benefit them in the changing of our environment. By moving to the climate that these species are from can also help them keep them alive. In another sense, if the animal is not moving, it can cause their population to create differences. The Urban Evolution article states this. Jason Lucia South, an evolutionary ecologist at Fordham University in New York, and colleagues analyzed the genomes of 262 rats and found that the animals have evolved distinct genomic profiles in different neighborhoods. The scientists believe it's because the rat populations don't move freely between these spots and slowly over time occur differences. Ultimately, gene flow and vulnerability helps with different species when the world's climate continues to change. Ultimately, as our climate changes and it gets warmer, it will drastically change animals and humans in the way that we live. Humans will have to be able to adapt quickly in order to survive. Compared with Mandela, there are some circumstances that humans will face where it is not environmental and they will have to learn how to adapt in those situations. As Mandela experienced, it was being in a prison and how to adapt in that situation where the prisoners gathered together in order to adapt, creating them to be a bigger force. However, most of the time it will be an environmental circumstance where a human will have to adapt, rather than on their own or finding a group just like Mandela did. Described in climate change could affect human evolution. Here's how. As the planet continues to warm, evolutionary changes are expected in other species as well, including Homo sapiens. Climate change will alter the internal works of our bodies in subtle but significant ways and will likely cause a noticeable shift in our appearance. This suggests that as the planet gets warmer, there will no longer be an extreme difference in human skin color. Races are already blending, meaning that changes in our climate have already begun the process of making racial diversity less, and it will only continue in the years to come due to our climate change getting warmer and worse. In the years to come, humans are going to face difficult situations when facing environmental changes on the planet. Those situations are changes in our microbiomes and diseases. Explained in Climate Change Can Affect Human Evolution, here's how. Changing diets will also trigger changes in our microbiomes, the bacteria and other microorganisms that live in our guts and help to keep us healthy. Veterinarians tend to harbor a different mix of bacteria than meat eaters, and these changes could be exaggerated if prolonged droughts make it too costly to raise livestock for meat. This represents that if our planet continues to get warmer, it will cause droughts, leaving not many crops like fruits and vegetables. This in turn will cause changes in human microbiomes. Even though human diets are an issue when coming to climate change, diseases are too. Stated in the same article, a warmer climate means malaria. West Nile virus and other diseases are too. Other diseases long confined primarily to the tropics will spread to the temperate zones. As a result, people living in the U.S. and other developed nations will be exposed to these illnesses, and our immune systems will be forced to evolve new defenses. That in turn could cause other non-infectious diseases. Humans will have to learn and evolve with these diseases that come at them, and will have to do it at a fast pace since the climate is changing at a constant rate. At the current point in human society, humans are trying to figure out a way to help reduce the climate change that is happening and the drastic adjustments that are about to happen. We as a society are trying to reduce the amount of pollution that occurs using less energy and composting. Because of the first humans, today's society has learned how to adapt with change. For instance, looking at the Nelson Mandela article, the reader can see that when faced with a different environmental challenge, those prisoners were able to figure out a way to evolve and work together. Mandela states, our survival depended on understanding what the authorities were attempting to do to us, and sharing that understanding with each other. It would be very hard, if not possible, for one man alone to resist. I do not know what I could have done if I had been alone, but the authorities' greatest mistake was keeping us together, for together our determination was reinforced. We learned, we shared, and by sharing we multiplied, whatever courage we had individually. This just shows that no matter what environmental change is thrown at someone's way, that someone is able to find a way to adapt. And looking at all this research, one can see that the environmental change has truly affected how a human evolves. No matter if the climate is getting hotter and hotter or being in prison with other people, all species have found their own unique way of evolving. Climate change is not going to go away anytime soon, meaning that the species are going to have to find a way to evolve, which ultimately will come to an end in the far, far future. Thank you.
I'll garage band some applause in there. Did your research go in a different direction than you originally expected?
Yes, my research did. In the beginning, I thought I wanted to focus on how genetics influence our human evolution. However, that was not giving me valuable information, or the information was all over the place, not connecting with the articles or the stimulus materials. So instead, I decided to change my thinking to climate change, where I was able to find valuable information that connected to more than one stimulus material.
Okay, thank you. What are the implications of your findings to our community?
The implications of my findings are that our society needs to learn how to adapt and evolve at a fast rate so that the climate change does not beat us to it, meaning that we need to act fast and try to fix the issues that are happening around us right now by trying to reduce the pollution that's in the air or other things that are causing our climate change to increase.